I once wrote a book titled Crossover: The New Model of Youth Basketball Development, and in part it was based on a long-term athlete development model started by Isvan Bali, who created it for the Canadian Olympic Committee. And so I often receive emails from coaches who know my connections in Canada because of some of that crossover, and then also because I've done a number of clinics and camps in Canada. And so they'll email me and tell me, we need to develop players more like Canada. And so my response is always, all right, let's go FIBA rules. Somewhere in the last decade, Canada changed from more like American high school rules to FIBA rules. And that's one of the bigger changes that they've made in their development system. And typically U.S. coaches will say, no, we can't do that. It's just not possible. And my response is always, well, why not? Why can't we do it? Why can't American players use a shot clock when they're in high school? I don't understand. I know some will say it's too expensive, or we don't have people who can run a shot clock, and these excuses, but we managed to find money for, tons of other expenses within the high school system. So I imagine, if it was mandated, the money would be there somehow or some way. But I think having the shot clock affords different opportunities and requires more decision making by the players. And that's also not the only rule change that would happen with FIBA rules. Another big one would be the elimination of live ball timeouts. So if I'm about to get a 5-second call, my coach can't call a timeout to bail me out of my mistake. Only dead ball timeouts. So that's another big advantage from a development standpoint for FIBA rules. But with the 24-second shot clock, one, there's simply more possessions, so there's going to be more decisions made on each possession. And even more than that, having a clock changes the way the game is played. So, and typically, when we look at decisions, and we look at good decisions and bad decisions, we're only focusing on the decisions that were made. We don't focus on the decisions that weren't made. So what I mean is, if I take a shot, we can evaluate, was that a good shot, was that a bad shot? But generally speaking, if I pass up a shot, we don't evaluate that decision as being a good decision not to shoot or a bad decision not to shoot. If I dribble into the paint and I pass the ball, we make that decision, was that a good pass, was that a bad pass? If I dribble into the paint and dribble back out and start over again, we don't evaluate, was that a good decision to dribble back out or a bad decision to dribble back out? And so because we don't evaluate these non-decisions, I think we allow players to make a number of bad non-decisions during a game because the clock isn't a factor. So if I catch the ball, let's say we come down, it takes us 6 or 7 seconds to advance to the front court, we make 2 passes, and now I catch the ball and I'm open. It's probably somewhere 12, 14 seconds left, shot clock. So I catch the ball, I'm open. I'm a decent shooter, I'm in my range. Is that a good shot? Well, I don't even look at the basket. I look because we're running a play, and so I'm waiting for the next person to come off a screen, and I'm going to pass to that person. Okay, so now we pass to that person. So we don't evaluate, well, did I catch the ball? Was I open? Was I in my range? Was that a good shot? Should I have taken that? We simply say, well, nope, they caught the ball and they made the pass, they completed the pass, everything's good. Okay, and without a shot clock, we can do that an unlimited number of times on a possession. With the clock, it forces us to examine, when I caught that ball, 12 seconds left on the shot clock, and I was open, I was in my range, and that's a pretty good shot, I should probably shoot the ball. Because now if I pass to somebody else, maybe they're not quite as open, and now we have to restart our offense, and now we end up with having to just chuck the ball at the rim at the end of the 24-second shot clock because we didn't have time to reset a play like we would without a shot clock. So we have to evaluate those non-decisions, and I think we allow players to make bad non-decisions because we don't evaluate them in the same way that we evaluate an actual action. So if I pass the ball, we can say, oh yeah, You threw the ball to a player who was covered, bad decision. Oh, you threw the ball to an open player, good decision. Um, you know, you dribbled and somebody was open and you kept dribbling. We don't evaluate that in the same way and say, no, you should have passed the ball. That was a bad decision not to pass the ball in that situation. And I think when you put a 24-second shot clock out there, I think those non-decisions or non-actions become much, much more important and much more evident. Because if you don't act on them, then you end up playing in late shot clock situations, and then you end up taking more difficult shots. And so I think beyond just the additional possessions, putting a little bit more onus on players, I do think it has a very real impact in the decisions that are made and the way that we evaluate decisions. And so more than just trying to create more opportunities for decisions, I think creating these more valued decisions within a possession because of the limited amount of time, I think it increases the importance of each decision that's made, and again, the non-decisions or the non-actions as well. And so I think that's where the additional learning and the potential for improvement really occurs. And sure, with a 24-second shot clock, if there's going to be a blowout, it might be a worse blowout. But that's going to happen. And there's definitely negatives. But there's definitely negatives to not having a shot clock as well. And if we're worried about what's the best developmental opportunity for these players, I believe that at the adolescent level or the high school level, having a shot clock, at least a 30-second shot clock, I think that creates these situations that can help to continue and improve decision making and make the decisions more important and generate more evaluation of these non-actions and basically the non-decisions that we make, and treat them in the same way that we tend to treat the actions or the decisions that are made when we actually do something.